Gigantamax Lapras Battle Day is coming up in Pokemon Go, and in this video I will be going through all of the details and tips, including the best counters for GMAX Lapras, and how the new Max Mushrooms will change Max battles going forward. So the event takes place on December 8th between 2 PM and 5 PM local time. GMAX Lapras will be debuting in 6-star Max battles, and it can be shiny, and the new Max Mushroom item will be debuting, but more on that later. For the bonuses for the event, the Max Particle collection limit will be increased to 1600. All power spots will host GMAX battles, power spots will be refreshing more frequently, and you'll get 8 times max particles from power spots. So these bonuses will be active for the 3 hours of the event, but there are a couple of other bonuses that will be active for a longer period of time on the day, between 12 AM and 5 PM local time. And these bonuses will be 2 times max particles from exploring, and you'll have quarter distance to receive max particles from walking. There'll also be an optional ticket available to purchase for $5, and this will get you a timed research that will include 1 Max Mushroom, 25,000 XP, and you'll get the following bonuses: 2 times XP from max battles, and the Max Particle collection limit will be increased to 5,600, and the timed research will be effective between 2 PM and 5 PM on the 8th. But is it actually worth buying this ticket? So with GMAX battles being as difficult as they are, I would only recommend purchasing this ticket if you do have a decent amount of people to do these battles with, because if you don't and you can't do the battles because you don't have enough people, then these bonuses won't really have any value. Apart from the increased particle collection limit being 5,600, because this will allow you to power up more max moves on Pokemon than you would normally. So this could be of use to you even if you don't plan on doing GMAX Lapras battles, or if you don't have enough people to do them with. And the Max Mushrooms will cost 400 Pokecoins in Pokemon Go, so with that and the bonuses, I would actually say that this ticket is worth purchasing for $5, as long as you know you're going to be able to do multiple of these GMAX Lapras battles so you can get more value out of the bonuses. But what exactly are Max Mushrooms and what can they do? As GMAX battles are some of the hardest battles in the game that often require 10+ trainers, Niantic are introducing an item from the main series games, Max Mushrooms, which will make them easier. And there is a way that these items could become even more interesting in the future. Max Mushrooms were first introduced in Generation 8 of Pokemon, the same generation that Dynamax and Gigantamax were first introduced. And you could actually use Max Mushrooms to make an item called Max Soup, more on that later. But using the Max Mushrooms themselves in a Dynamax battle in the main series games would raise the attack, defense, special defense, and speed of a Pokemon by 1 stage each. However, in Pokemon Go, this will be a little bit different. Using a Max Mushroom in a Pokemon Go Max battle will temporarily increase the damage that your Dynamax or GMAX Pokemon will do by increasing the damage of their fast attacks, charge attacks, and Max and GMAX attacks. But how much will this increase the Pokemon's damage by, and how long will the effect last for? So it will cause your Pokemon to double the amount of damage it would normally do until the Max Mushroom timer runs out. There is going to be a tutorial for Max Mushrooms where you get a free Max Mushroom that you can use for 5 minutes, but the Max Mushrooms that you buy will last for 30 minutes, and you can use multiple Max Mushrooms to double your damage for a longer period of time. Using more than 1 Max Mushroom won't allow you to do more damage than using just the one, so the damage effect doesn't stack, it's just the timer that will increase. And to activate a Max Mushroom, you do need to do this from the Max Battle lobby screen, and in the lobby you can also see if other trainers are using Max Mushrooms. And outside of the tutorial Max Mushroom you get, how can you actually get these Max Mushrooms? So like I mentioned before, you will be able to get 1 Max Mushroom from the event ticket. Other than that, you will need to spend 400 Pokecoins to get one from the in-game shop, which is quite a steep cost when you compare it to other items in the shop like raid passes, and it is especially steep for free-to-play players who only use gyms to get their Pokecoins. And how much exactly will these Max Mushrooms change Max battles? So these items will be really useful, especially for those that don't have many people in their community to do these battles with. With certain counters and strategies, some Gigantamax raid bosses like Gengar and Toxtricity have been done with as few as 4 players. And although this isn't the case for most groups, Max Mushrooms giving your Pokemon double damage will really help to make the battles doable with fewer people. It is unfortunate though that they will be locked behind a paywall for the most part, but at least they will make GMAX battles more accessible for smaller communities. And not only will Max Mushrooms make battles easier through increased damage, but there is another way they could change the game even more in the future. So another use for Max Mushrooms in the main series games is to exchange 3 clusters of Max Mushrooms for Max Soup. The Max Soup can then be used to give Pokemon the ability to Gigantamax, if that Pokemon is eligible, i.e. if it has a Gigantamax form in the first place. This could be a game changer in Pokemon Go because assumably it would allow you to give your old Pokemon the ability to Gigantamax or Dynamax. This would allow you to use your old Pokemon in max battles and not feel like they're a bit of a waste when it comes to this feature. However, there is no way of knowing whether Niantic will introduce Max Soup into the game and whether it'll have this effect that is similar to the effect of the main series games. But it is possible, and it would be a really good way for us to be able to use our older Pokemon in max battles going forward. And with all of that said, what are the best counters for Gigantamax Lapras battles? So GMAX Lapras is a water and ice type, so it is weak to electric, fighting, grass and rock type attacks. It can be shiny from these battles, and the 100% IV CP value will be 1509. The best counters in terms of damage will be Gigantamax Toxtricity with Spark and Wild Charge, Gigantamax Venusaur with Vine Whip and Frenzy Plant or Solar Beam if you don't want to use an Elite TM to get Frenzy Plant. It is worth noting that whilst GMAX Venusaur will be really strong in terms of damage, it may also take super effective damage from Lapras's ice type attacks, but it will take reduced damage from the water type attacks. And you can always back out of the battle and re-lobby to potentially change the moveset of GMAX Lapras if you're struggling against a certain moveset. Dynamax Machamp will also be a great counter with Counter and Dynamic Punch. Max Machop is available right now in Pokemon Go as well, so it's worth picking up some of these if you plan on doing GMAX Lapras battles, especially if you don't have GMAX Toxtricity or Venusaur. But remember, you might not want to invest too much into Max Machamp because it does have a GMAX form coming in the future, which will be stronger. And if you don't have any of these GMAX counters and you haven't managed to pick up a Max Machop yet, then you could always use Max Toxtricity or Max Venusaur as counters as well. And whilst counters are very important, it's worth noting that powering them up and powering up their max moves is really important as well. And if you don't have much Stardust, it could be worth increasing the level of max moves more so than the level of the Pokemon, because powering up a Pokemon requires Stardust and upgrading max moves doesn't. However, to power up max moves, it does require max particles, and you can only collect and carry a certain amount at a time, so they are a bit of a bottleneck. But it may not be necessary for you to fully power up a max attack, max guard and max spirit, because if you can communicate with your group, you can choose roles. It's worth having one person per 4-person group using max guard as a tank to draw in the boss's attacks, and others in the group can then choose to heal periodically with max spirit or focus attacking. And for tanks in particular, it is recommended to have a fast attack that has a 0.5 second animation time and use no charged moves, because just using this quick fast attack is the fastest way of charging your max meter, so it allows you to get to max guard as quickly as possible. And with max mushrooms being implemented into the game, it is pretty much always going to be worth using them to double up your damage, especially against GMAX bosses. But if you do have a certain number of trainers and you know you can beat it without using them, then it's probably best to save your Pokecoins or save the mushrooms for another battle when you have fewer people. Also remember, if you see this icon above your Pokemon's head, it means it is being targeted for an attack, which you can swipe to move your Pokemon out of the attack to take reduced damage from it. And if you see the Dynamax icon on the battlefield, make sure to swipe into it to fill up your max meter more quickly. And even if all of your Pokemon faint in battle, you can still help your group by tapping on the screen to cheer on your teammates. This allows their max meters to fill up more quickly so they can get to max attacks more quickly. But finally, is GMAX Lapras actually worth battling? So GMAX Lapras is the only Gigantamax Pokemon that has access to an Ice GMAX move, GMAX Resonance. This means it will be particularly useful against flying, ground, grass and dragon type Pokemon in max battles. And with Lapras having pretty bulky stats with 174 defense and 277 HP, and it does have access to Water Gun, which is a fast attack that has a 0.5 second animation time, this means it will be a good tank to use moving forward. And outside of max battles, Lapras doesn't really have much meta relevance, but it does see some play in the Ultra League where it is ranked 110 with 0.15 IVs. Although it is worth noting that it does want 2 legacy moves, Ice Shard and Ice Beam, to be at its best in the Ultra League, and being only ranked 110, I wouldn't really recommend using Elite TMs on this Pokemon. And with that said, if you did enjoy this video, then I recommend checking out these videos on the screen now, and I'll catch you in the next one.